Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. You know what it is. It's time for the Chat Box, live on YouTube, coming to you from the TV8 studios. I'm with myself, Liz, and my beautiful co-host, Jen Sido, and we have a very, very special guest with us who I would love to introduce right now, Kim Denning, everybody. And why we are here today is, as we all know, or at least I hope we all know, that yesterday was National Mental Health Awareness Day, which I really think every day should be, but they always target one day for everybody to go, right into it. But this is something that we love to do here on the Chat Box. We like to make you feel better and fill in all the blanks where it comes to mental health, emotional well-being, and all that other great stuff. So Kim Denning, we have you here, but Jen, I want you to give a special introduction to everybody about Kim, because Kim is very special. We know her through some magical moments.
Absolutely. So I met Kim from the Vail Valley Theater Company. She was the music director for Cabaret, so she's absolutely incredible. And I would just love to give you the floor to kind of tell us why you're here today.
Well, I'm here because I have been in close contact with my brother having committed suicide. And it's been about, it was around the year 2000. And leading up to that, there were issues where he had a breakdown and where I attended. He was in a hospital. He was put in a hospital when he was about 18 years old. And actually that age range is a common age for mental illness to start showing.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
No, it really is. So even though you see some things in children, at that age is when they really start acting out on it or something like that.
Yeah, and he had, there was history there. There was trauma, I believe, that contributed to it. But now that I know more at this point, because I've researched and been very interested in mental health since then, that is a common age. He ended up getting out of that hospital. He was diagnosed with something called OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder.
I have a little bit of that. I'm not like over the top, but I definitely have.
I have none, and I wish I had a little more.
No, you'll sit in someone's house and there'll be a crooked picture and you'll be like this for like the entire dinner. Like I gotta get up and fix that picture. So mine's mild.
So he had OCD, and he would do things like when he was in the mental hospital, he would have be in the shower, have a bar of soap, and drop it down 7 squares, tiles. It would drop.
Okay.
And he would count the tiles.
Oh,
interesting.
And pick it back up and have to re-drop it. So that's kind of what's in the mind of a severe OCD. And so I used to drive. This was out in LA, and I would drive. I lived in the south side of Orange County area. He was up in Van Nuys area, which, if you know LA, is up.
I know where Van Nuys is.
Off the 10 or the 210, something I can't remember now. Anyway, so I would drive up on Friday nights across LA and sit in with him. In his, they had group discussions there, and there were a lot of kids. This was back, I would say, 1980s early, and there were a lot of kids in there. The difference with my brother was he did not smoke or drink. There was no
he didn't
addiction.
turn to any substances.
No substances, no.
Did he have any other onsets from the OCD? I know that OCD causes a lot of other issues, even some hallucinations and things like that. I don't know how deep his was.
Yeah, I was not aware of any of that.
Mm-hmm.
He got out of that.
Good. Oh,
he got out of that hospital. Well,
I mean, thinking a little step in a time.
So this was when he was 18. He got out of that hospital, and he was in a band that played in Hollywood. He made CDs and music. He was a musician. He was crazy. He lived in Hollywood. It turns into what it looked like then became bipolar.
Interesting.
And one of his big moments with bipolar was he went hiking. And not just a little hike. He went, he did 800 miles, 1,200 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail.
Oh my gosh.
And he had never hiked
by himself?
before. So yeah, by
Wow.
himself.
Did he plan this or just go?
Not well. Not
Okay.
well. He packed a backpack. There's mail parts of the Pacific Crest Trail where you can get food delivered to you or
Oh.
drops delivered to you. So he headed out. He had, like his first camping trip in his life was this.
Wow.
And he was way overweight. He had people at campsites trimming down his toothbrush for him and emptying his pack, and
Oh.
he knew nothing. He knew nothing about it. But that's a symptom of bipolar, is these extreme highs where I
Yep.
can go do anything,
Sure.
and then extreme lows. So he ended up in snowstorms, had bears cross his path.
Sounds like a movie.
He
Yeah.
should have written. We should have written a book. But he made it down to San Francisco
Wow.
from Oregon.
How
Yeah.
long was he on this journey?
10 years.
I want to say like 3 months.
Wow.
But this was one of his, again, a bipolar
Yes.
symptom. He also, his business, he bought it for, he was on a show, so he was also an actor. He was on Saved by the Bell. He
No
was-
way!
Yeah, he was
remember
on,
that.
and so I bought whole albums of that, of all the series,
That's
and we
cute.
find him in it, and my kids find him in it. He was also in a Hollywood show that was about spooky things. I can't remember what it's called, but he drove a limo through Hollywood and went to all the places that people died, like John Belushi and Marilyn
Interesting.
Monroe, and did
Like a Hollywood tour kind of
yes,
thing? Yeah.
yes, but it was graveyard tours.
Yeah, like the
Interesting.
death
Graveyard
Yeah.
tours. So he was very, he was kind of out there.
Yeah.
He did a lot of fun things. He was funny.
Was he a loner?
He had friends around him all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he had friends. He had a band.
Okay.
He had old friends from high school,
Uh-huh.
and so
Okay,
he
so
was
that wasn't-
independent as far as his thinking.
Right. Okay. But he wasn't isolated.
But he
in any
wasn't.
way.
He didn't isolate himself.
Okay.
No,
That's interesting.
No, I mean he did actually once for a couple years. He did go. He called it minimalist. He went minimalist, and he cut out everything and everybody, and disappeared for a couple years. And
Wow.
I honestly cannot remember the chronological order of
You
how
don't
all
have
of this
to.
happened.
It's a lot.
I had a conversation with him. So he got to be age 30, and I had a conversation with him, and he told me then that he had tried to take his own life, and he said to me, "I just want to get out of my head and body."
Oh, God,
And that
that's
was
so
my
sad.
last conversation with
That was
him.
your last conversation.
Yeah, and he admitted then that he had tried it before. So I had 2 young kids. My kids were 2 and 4 at the time. I was in Colorado at this point, and he was out in California. And I made cries for help to my mom.
Right,
I
sure.
was going, somebody, because they were still out there, somebody please go do something about him and help him. And long story short, he ended up within about a week or 2 of that trying again, and he was successful at it.
There must be something so hard for somebody that's going through this that even though he did reach out, didn't take any further steps to maybe figure out how he could get out of that mindset. But the cool thing about that is, not the cool thing, but what we can do today. We can't save everybody, and we
Right.
can only learn and grow from what we've
Right.
lost. But since this has taken place, you have made it a journey in your life to help others maybe find a way to combat it, or maybe to de-stress their lives or come out of the darkness, and utilize so many other different tools. I know you're part of Speak Up, Reach Out, and all the other stuff like that. And it's sad that it takes a tragedy for us to snap into action. But when I hate to say that ignorance is bliss, but when you don't know about something, you're kind of going along your merry way. The one thing I have to say is that there's a lot of people that we think are full of life and bubbles and contentment and joy, and they could go home and cry themselves to sleep because we don't know. You did not know what was going on in your brother's head that he needed to get away from. You don't know what's going on with some of your closest friends, even though they seem perfectly fine.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about me, I swear. Because I fit that bill sometimes. I really, really do.
Yeah.
But and I struggle with mental health all the time. And I just want to commend you for bringing this story to light and to be able to talk about it with full passion and love for your brother.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm still stuck in so many ways on things that have happened to me in my life, and I feel like I've done things for it. But when I see somebody that like you, that you must, I mean, it doesn't even matter how much you love your brother. You saw this happen, and you realized that there are a lot of people in this world that might be able to have a little help.
Well, and then there's something really cool that came out of this that you have sitting right next to you on the table.
Yes.
So do you want to?
Should I?
Ooh.
So the next part of the story came about 10 years later.
Okay.
And I mean, and I just want to back up and say, so when there is a person that you are close to struggling, and I'm not talking about myself,
Right.
I'm saying anybody you know where there's someone struggling, there are people around them struggling too, because it's a really hopeless feeling. And mental health psychiatrist, you know, my brother was on medications. Those medications cause problems. His had been upped 3 days before, and it's very common for the medications to cause suicidal ideation.
Right.
Was it
So
medication for bipolar?
Or for like
yes.
depression.
No, for bipolar at this point, and they're called SSRIs.
Yes.
I'm not scientifically all in the know. I know about it because
But
I've read about
I
it.
even know that
Yeah.
that there are
Yeah.
a lot of different side effects to things like
Yeah.
this. So if there are natural ways and things that you can do, unless there is a
Yeah.
real
Yeah.
medical need, that
Yeah.
we
Well, and it helps some people, but it doesn't. And we'll get to that later when with some of the other things that I'd love to talk about. But so my brother had a girlfriend who was she's an accomplished novelist.
can. Nice.
She wrote science, historical fiction based on true things, and she had been quite successful. She's actually the one that found my brother.
Oh, wow.
When he passed away, my mother had called and asked her to go in, because my mother didn't want to.
Did she know? Did she have an inkling?
Well,
or?
my mother found my great-grandfather took his own life along with his wife when they were old, and my mother had found them. And so she didn't even want to take that chance of going
My
in. And so
God.
she called Jennifer Niven. Jennifer had been a girlfriend of my brother's. Well, 10 years later, my mom calls me and says, your sister was looking at Jennifer's website, her author website, and she's written a book about somebody that she was close to and that took his own life.
No.
And she goes, it might be your brother. And I'm like, you think? Like how many, that didn't happen to her more than once, right?
I mean,
right?
come on.
Yeah, right.
And then you have to look in the mirror.
So the interesting thing is my daughter got home, and who's now in high school at this point, so it was many years later, and she was 2 when he had passed away. So my daughter got home, and I said, you know, there's a book, and I get online and I show the picture. I said, there's a book, and it looks like it's going to come out in January, and we think it's about Uncle Curtis. My brother's name was Curtis. And she says, Mom, that book is on my English teacher's desk.
You know.
Wow.
It was not out yet. It was not out yet. And this was right before our holiday vacation for Christmas.
Oh my gosh.
So I have her go back and check, and sure enough, it's that book. And it turns out her English teacher was one of these readers for bookstores. It was for the bookworm here, and for bookstores where you read books coming out before they get put on the shelf.
that
and
makes
then you
sense.
give a
Synopsis.
a review. So, and this is a young adult book, and it is based on my brother's life.
Wow.
It was based on my brother's life. So I got to be one of the first people to read it because the teacher gave it to us because it was over the Christmas holidays, and I got to read it
That's amazing.
over the Christmas holidays.
Did you just have chills
I
from
do.
the coincidence?
well,
of,
I mean, I have chills now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and the crazy thing about it was, she told me later, Jennifer did, that she wrote this really quickly. It's like, she goes, it's like I channeled it. This was 10 years behind her. I'm sure very traumatic for her.
absolutely.
And then she just sat down when she said she wrote it in about 6 weeks.
That's
And-
because it's right here, and once you start, the flow does not stop.
Well, and it's loosely, so it's, I'm going to say loosely based. The characters in here are younger, but it goes along with my brother and her's relationship, going to Indiana where she was from. There were many things that resonated with me when I read the book. It became a New York Times bestseller.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Do you feel like this book here is a tool for people that might be going through something? Like,
Yeah.
why would you recommend this book today?
Jennifer set up a wonderful website. Just today, I was getting in the car to come here. I looked at my Instagram, and there was the book. Like, that was
All
the
these
first
divine
thing.
things happen.
Oh no, there's magic. There's
Wow.
magic, even in bad things. But there was, and it was from a kid who wrote her and said, "This book saved me." So she set up something where a lot of young adults have looked at depressive, mental health issues, depression, anxiety. And kids have gotten tattoos on them from this book.
Wow.
And in fact, today's was
It's
one
almost
of those.
like a cult classic type
it
of
kind
thing.
of got that way.
You know?
I felt really blessed because I don't think, how many people lose somebody that close to them in that way, which is it's a tough way to lose somebody for many reasons. But to have his life go on. And
Now I
means-
understand what you meant
means something.
in the beginning when you said, I am in connection with my brother who's passed.
Mm-hmm.
So you can literally stay connected with somebody even though their earthly being isn't here.
Oh, yeah.
Their soul, their spirit,
Yeah.
and what you've learned about him and what you can hopefully teach others.
Right.
It's all encompassing. And it's, my fingertips have goosebumps. I you have that.
Yeah.
So, now that we have, I want to show this at the end so everybody can talk about this book.
Yeah.
But Jen has told me so much about you, and you have mentioned there are a lot of other things that you do to encompass the really good things that we can do to make ourselves feel better, to let go
Yeah.
of some of the darkness, and to help ourselves heal.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite?
Yeah. Well, can I say first?
No.
I went in to speak. I went to speak at Reach Out, and this is about
That's
10 years
amazing.
later.
We love them, by
Yeah,
the way.
yeah.
We
So
love
do
them.
I. And I got trained in suicide awareness.
Ah.
I actually got a state training in prevention, and then I got another thing through them. It's called Assist.
Oh.
And so I went into the schools with other volunteers, and we would each take groups, and we would do presentations on suicide awareness, depression. They're still doing it now,
Wow.
and get questionnaires from the kids and teach them coping skills. And I will tell you, I didn't know those coping skills
Yeah.
before I did that. And that I have used since then in times when I've needed to kind of get,
Can I have a copy?
yeah, sure. Yeah, they're on their website. Actually.
Okay, good. Yeah,
They're on
yeah.
their website. But I'm also amazed at how many kids are suffering, and what I learned, kids that were self-harming and just battling things at home that we don't know about. And not that people are bad at home, but economic things.
It can be so many
It
things.
can be so many things.
Even an adopted kid into a family of people that love that
Yeah.
kid, if there's another kid,
Yeah.
they're going to go through things whether they
Right.
try as hard as they can or
Right.
not. So that is, it doesn't mean that at home the
No,
parents are
and
abusive.
that's I want to. That's
It's-
what I want
right.
to not.
Right, because it's
make
not always
reference
on
to.
that.
No, it's just people. We all have mental health issues. I mean,
Exactly. What are you
talking
at
about?
some point. Well, except you.
Definitely not Liz.
We all struggle at
Yes.
times with insecurities and self-worth. How many people have struggled with self-worth through their lives,
Pick
right?
me, pick me.
Yeah, and how do we overcome those things? And so that was a really great time for me. I may
love that.
go back and do it because that was healing for me.
So that does sound like one of the better tools that you have begun your journey on was through
Yeah, going to Speak Up, Reach Out in the
right.
training.
And I know you're going to take the
I'm
class
going
as
to
well.
take a training.
Yeah,
Yes.
they'll have a class. They have a class October 29th and October 30th. this
which
I
I'm
wanna
a part
take
of.
it.
It's
Yeah.
free to sign
I
up. You
have,
can sign up on their
um,
website.
Yeah.
I was on the phone with somebody trying to talk them out of taking their life, and they took their life anyway.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
for me, I felt like I was totally aware of what they wanted to
Yeah.
do, and I couldn't save them. And
Yeah.
so it's hard for me to step into a position where I think that, what other tool can I learn other than trying to help this person? But I know there are other tools that none of us are aware of.
Well, and I know you're exactly right. I had a friend who I took care of for years after my brother died,
Oh,
and
my
he
gosh.
finally took his own life.
Oh my God.
And I came to a point, and this is going to sound bizarre maybe to some people, but he had struggled with addictions and so many things for so long. He was a 50-some-year-old man. He had overcome alcohol and then had a ski accident, was put on meds,
Pills.
and it took him another fall. Just
Opioids.
We've heard that
unfortunate
over and
things.
over again
Yeah,
here. Yep.
yeah.
It's really sad.
So there was a point when I was teaching for Speak Up, Reach Out, and I couldn't, I had to step away
Yeah.
because this person, I had taken care of him for many years, helped him out through, he was in and out of rehab and so forth, and I felt like he wasn't in pain anymore. I had watched.
Oh, that's a nice way to look
Yeah,
at it.
yeah.
So you can let go of all those negative things that we feel that we didn't do right, or you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
what I went through.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
blamed
went through that with my brother.
myself, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have the control.
Yeah, yeah.
We just don't.
Right.
We can only be there and learn from what we
Right.
grow from.
Right.
Well, and the interesting thing about Speak Up, Reach Out is that, like you said, as you think you might be taking it for somebody else, there are still helpful tools that you can have for yourself and
yeah.
moving forward. So I recommend it to everybody, and especially since it's free. I feel like
Yeah.
it's such an awesome tool to
Yeah.
have and to educate yourself with. And
It's as important as CPR
absolutely,
classes.
absolutely,
It's free,
yes.
and you know a skill
Right.
to help somebody
Right.
that could possibly change their entire life.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
I jumped in
Yeah.
the play the other day. A guy was choking. I was like,
Oh,
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even sure I knew what to do, but I was going to help him anyway. That's just my
Yeah.
nature. But I
Yeah.
love that you are here, and I'm so happy to have you here. I want to touch on everything because
yeah.
what I really want to stress to anybody who's watching right now is that as you've been watching the chat box, we've brought on so many people with so many different levels of ideas of how you can combat or deal with or overcome and all of these things. And you've had some magical moments and you've really worked with some great things, and a lot of it has to do with one of our senses.
Oh. Our ears.
Well, I mean, all of them combined together, but
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
our sense of
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
has a huge play
Right.
in our
Right.
emotional well-being.
Right. Yeah, I started playing the piano when I was on my mom's lap, playing with my hand on hers.
Aww.
I grew up in a chaotic household.
Did you?
Yeah. So my piano playing, I've always said, saved me.
Wow.
Saved my, I was, yeah.
It probably
because
did.
that's where I went. I'd come home from school and I'd play the piano. I'd get up in the morning, and before I went to school, I'd play the piano. And so it's been, I now have a certificate in sound healing.
Oh.
And sound healing is vibrations. You've all seen the sound bowls or the drums and the
Oh, sure.
gongs and so forth. So I went through a 6-month course in that, and that's points to soothing the nervous system. And a lot of mental health issues come from a nervous system that is shot, and mine has been shot.
Dysregulated.
Yeah,
Mine's been shot
dysregulated.
too.
Yeah.
But I'm not nearly as far along as you
Well,
are.
Well, it's a process, and you have to combine a lot of different things. In my own experience, I'm not an expert. All I know is my own
Right.
path and journey that
That's-
I've taken.
Right.
And so sound healing I knew would help. Einstein said sound is the medicine of the future.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And so vibrations actually do heal because our bodies are all water, our cells are water. So what happens is, say you put a singing bowl on and it puts a
I wish you
tone.
brought one.
I almost brought it.
I need a
But I was
bowl.
like, "Am I- is that too much?
No.
Next time.
Yeah.
But what happens is your cells, because they're water, entrain to the sound and the vibration of the tone being played on the singing bowl.
Never heard it put that way. I always think it's just going in your head and your feelings, I think, but
Yeah, because
wow.
we're water. Yeah, it also helps with vagus nerve health.
Right, that's an important
Yeah.
nerve I've been reading about.
Yes, it's
Learning
very-
also
it's all
at this
in-
age,
yeah,
learning a
it's
lot
all-
about the vagus nerve.
So sound healing, and I've had several men, macho men, come up to me and say, "Yeah, I went to the sound healing. I think their wives dragged them there or something."
That's how it starts.
And, yeah, that's how it starts. And they sat up and went, "What was that?" And I've had men
I
say that
love
to me.
that.
What was that? Because it is a non-invasive way
Yeah.
of calming the nervous system. Nobody's touching you. No, it's just moving through the air, the waves of sound, and coming into your body.
It sounds like it feels.
I
mean, I'm imagining it.
I know,
Believe
now
it
we
or not.
need one. We need
Yeah.
one. Yeah. So that's one of the tools that, I mean, yes, music has helped me greatly, and it's also in our, like, Speak Up, Reach Out. It's one of the things that we talked about, like playing music that you like. Don't go get drunk and listen to acid rock. That's not a good idea.
Or listen to old songs
Yeah.
that make you cry all night
stuff
long.
that makes you cry. You have to actually have,
Yeah.
you know,
You don't
the
put on
set list
Nazareth
for
Love Hurts.
I'm like Bob Marley. Everything's all right. That's one of my go-to
Positive
songs.
influences,
yeah.
for sure.
So you have to be particular. But another tool that I have found has changed my life is meditation. And
That's so hard.
yes, a lot of people say that.
It's
yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
For us
Yeah.
ADHD folk, we're like,
Right. Well, I mean, she does have adult ADHD, and I don't know what I am, but I literally have had anxiety attacks during a meditation process where they're like, okay, start at the ankles. I'm like, we're only at the knees. And I'm like, I don't like this at all. But one thing that I did learn about meditation is you can pick a song like you were talking about, and if you just close your eyes and you just listen to that song a few times, you can listen to the words first. You can listen to the melody then, or the music, or the instruments. You're meditating.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's you're not trying to control your thoughts.
Right.
You're actually, they're like clouds going
Yeah.
by.
And I think that's why it's hard,
Yeah.
because people think, oh, I'm going to work on this now, I'm going to meditate now.
Yeah.
And
no.
then it just,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I have studied under a lot of very famous, successful meditation teachers, and one of my favorites, I left a link for you,
Nice.
is Dr. Joe Dispenza.
yes.
And he teaches two things that I have found very helpful in my life, is mindset and meditation. And you're combining those two things of strengthening your mind. And the reason it's important is Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches when we have negative, sad feelings, we release chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
When we have happy feelings, we release different set of
That's
chemicals.
a serotonin, right?
Right.
Okay,
And
I don't know what the
dopamine.
chemicals
And
are.
dopamine.
Oh,
I-
dopamine.
Yeah. So here's what happens. People who have been through trauma or chaos in childhood, etc., they are producing these chemicals, and so they're used to living with those chemicals. When they go away, they create something, or they start having sad thoughts again. It can be an addiction. So when people seem like they're addicted to being sad,
It's complacency.
they're not complacent.
But it feels like
it's like
complacent.
it's like being an alcoholic,
Oh.
but it's the
'Cause I
chemicals
feel like
that
it's
we produce.
complacency.
No.
Like, because I've always been more comfortable struggling than when everything's great.
Yeah.
I get a little nervous.
Because people become used to those chemicals that have been produced for so long
That's very
that
interesting.
when they start dying off, you go back for more.
Right.
So you create situations that will create those chemicals in your body again.
Oh, goodness.
Right. So we
like our
have to
chemicals.
we have to be very careful about what we think and what we allow ourselves to think and how we talk to ourselves.
And wouldn't it be great if we just knew exactly how
Right.
all these things? Like,
well,
I know some people say, oh, wake up and say something positive. Well, if I wake up and my back hurts, the first thing out of my mouth is a cuss word. You know, and I'm like, wow, is my day doomed because I said, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I'd like to hear more about it because I wonder how you can program yourself
well,
to be that way.
I gave you the link to one
Yeah.
of Dr. Joe's books, and I will tell you he is all over the internet in short talks. I would say go listen to one, and what he has to say. Waking up and going to bed grateful is the first thing. You wake up and you have to take inventory of everything you're grateful for. Quietly before
Start the chaos.
yeah, go to pee or whatever.
I'm grateful for having to pee right away, so that's
But
my
you
gratitude
take-
right there.
You take inventory because I think we get so turned, we get knocked off balance from things that happen during the day, and we let them become even bigger than they need to. And if we don't feel good about ourselves or something else has happened, we start this downward spiral. And the key is to not let yourself do that downward spiral.
Can I give you an example, and then maybe you can give me an idea as to maybe how this day would have been different? On the morning, on a weekend, I got up and I had my dog and I was watching two other doggies. So we're going to go to a little hike. We go up on Berry Creek. They're the sweetest little dogs, you know, and they were going. And there was a guy coming down and they just went up to greet him. They didn't go biting him or anything. They just went up and sniffed him and greeted him, and he went off on me. And I started off thinking, God, why is everybody so miserable anymore?
Yeah.
And I said, do me a favor, take your negative attitude and go somewhere else because my dogs didn't do anything. He goes, well, they could have, and then I don't need to go into the whole argument.
Yeah.
But I was in such a happy mood, happy, going down the
Yeah.
trail with the three dogs. By the time that interaction was over,
Yeah.
I was in my car sobbing,
Yeah.
crying. I went home and took a nap.
Yeah.
And now I would love to be able to just say, Psh, it's his journey, not mine.
Yeah.
But yet it offended me. It affected me viscerally. And I was done for the day. He said some really he really was very
Yeah.
nasty.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know in my smart part of my brain that there's people out there that are just miserable and they're
Yeah.
just gonna put it upon you.
Yeah.
But to have the tools to be able to be like, brush it off, it would be amazing.
My word is impervious, and it's something I've worked on so hard. Like I want to be impervious to so many
Yeah.
things that go because I'm an empath. I pick
Yeah.
up on
I
everybody's
think all three of us are.
energy. Yeah. Like, oh, I know you're not feeling good today, are
Right.
you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I took his anger on, and it went right into me, and I was
and
just
so
toast.
I think it's just something. It's all of these things are like a muscle. This is what I've told myself. They're all like a muscle, and you have to just keep exercising it until you get stronger at it. It's not going to happen overnight when you haven't been doing it. For
Well, great,
years.
I'm old now. I don't know.
Well,
I'm
I'm
done.
old now too. I'm old now too, but there are lots of, that book is great. Get it on tape and take some walks and listen to it. It's his best work of his many books before I'll put into one, and he explains things in a way that it's scientific, but any layman can understand it.
That's good.
So meditation and mindset, I think, are huge things we should work on, and not having stress in our life, eliminating. I mean, we can't get away from stress, but you know, there are a lot of people taking on way more than they need to take on, I think, in life. But
It's true, but then life in general is stressful. The way humanity is right now, the way of the world, and everything
Oh,
else
it's
going
stressful.
on. There are people that I used to think were really sweet and deep, now like, you know, like they're all wired out.
driving down I-70.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
talk
I never
about
got flipped
four-
off in Colorado
oh, yeah.
before.
It's one of the most stressful. Yeah, I can be great until I get on the freeway. And then,
Yeah.
like,
It's so funny. You're in California, she's still
I-
saying
yeah.
highway. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been everywhere, so I call it a
We
different road every
can't
time
go
I
as
want it.
fast in California on the road as you go here because
That's 'cause
there's too
you're
many
stuck.
cars.
Because you're stuck.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
But this is really intriguing. What do you think, Jen? What do you think? Do you feel like you have those tools to utilize to wake up in the morning and instead of thinking about all the stuff that gives you anxiety, could you possibly roll that into a place where you're like, you know, I'm waking up in this great place and I'm happy where I am right now and I have nothing but gratitude?
Well, I think that, you know, it's a process, and, you know, every day it's kind of like doing yoga, where it's like when you wake up, it's like you're doing the best that you can on any given day. And I think being okay with that, not this perfection, not this idea that, oh, I'm 100% not bothered and everything is perfect, is, you know, it's okay. That is what kind of keeps you sane. It's like, okay, I'm at a 10 today and this doesn't feel good, but tomorrow it could be a 1, tomorrow it could be a 5, and just recognizing the fact that, you know, I can deal with what's coming in today, and, you know, be fine with that, make my peace with that, and not let that be define the rest of my day, my week, my month, that kind of thing. So I'm always putting more tools into my toolbox and practicing.
Great.
Yeah.
You're working on yourself.
Absolutely.
You're doing the work, and that's the most important thing. We all have to do the work. I have been doing, believe it or not, I'm good right now compared to what I've always been, but there's so much more.
Yeah.
But I've found myself a work in progress since I was 3 years old. And I felt like it's all been on my own, even though I've been surrounded by love and people and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
But we have to, in the end, be our own person to help ourselves.
Yes, we have to help. We have to fight back. And there's one other big way that I've just come across that cannot be missed, and it was shocking to me. I was doing research on nutrition, which is another love of mine, you know, passion. I was vegan for many years, went plant-based. I was having some issues this year, started looking up things, and I came across a doctor, and his name is Dr. Chris Palmer, and he's a Harvard psychiatrist. And what they've discovered is a lot of mental health issues are metabolic health issues
Because of what we eat.
because of what we eat.
Damn those
Because-
Oreos.
Because and it's it's because of our mitochondria. Metabolic health has to do with the mitochondria
And
in our
this
cells.
makes perfect sense.
And so he'll say, I'm not new at this. This came up. It's been researched and talked about years ago, but they pushed it aside. And if you know that the medical field and the food, you know, our food, all is governed by money coming. You know, you follow the money, as they say. And so.
And there's so much crap in our food now.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what this is about. And he's actually in the Senate this week talking and presenting his evidence. And I also left a link on here for Brain Energy, which is a book I'm just starting to read. But I have watched hundreds of videos with him and read all the comments. These are all YouTube interviews with him, and so you can go do that. Look up Dr. Chris Palmer, and comment after comment about people healing themselves from depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, which they've always said is a genetic disease, and it is not a genetic disease.
Wow.
People that are getting off all their meds. So even if you've got a light case of this, what they're using is a therapeutic keto diet.
Okay.
And what that means is
No sugar.
we need to cut out all of our sugar.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, sugar. Dr. Elizabeth Bright, who's another doctor in this nutrition field, says sugar is, or violence is caused by sugar imbalances.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, most
Yeah.
alcohol has sugar in
Yeah.
it anyway.
Well,
But
yeah.
it's true, and I was joking about the Oreos, but I actually stopped eating them because of the modified GMO and this sugar pure sugar starch or whatever you call that. So I actually have tried to get a lot of sugar out of my life for health reasons, and also because you are right. When we are not well up here, a lot of it has to do with our eating habits. And I have noticed that things have changed a little bit, of course, but then I sometimes eat a cake.
Well,
so, you know.
yeah, and if we don't understand what the correlation between I'm doing this and that,
For what
so
reason?
our body does not need carbohydrates. Carbohydrates turn into glucose in our body, just like sugar does, and fructose. Fruits aren't, we shouldn't be eating too many fruits.
I know, I went to
It's
fruit
kinda
after that.
sad,
I'm
I
like, okay, no
You
more
can't.
chocolate. I'm going to eat a
Nothing.
nice big apple and an orange and a banana, and there's more sugar and all that too.
But these doctors on here, and once you start going down the rabbit hole of, like, you look up Dr. Chris Palmer, and then there's Dr. Georgia Ede, and they're all talking about, and you'll start finding, it'll all start popping up on your YouTube feed
Yeah.
because they know you're looking at it.
I love it. I know, it's so
Right?
creepy.
But our bodies make glucose. We don't, and we are meant to take it out of
Okay.
our liver.
And it also, I mean, for a different purpose of health, when we are all inflamed, when we have so
causes
much
inflammation.
and if we all wonder why did that injury I had when I was 5, why is it hurting me now? Arthritis is caused by inflammation, which is caused by sugar.
And
it's-
carbohydrates.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah. It's
and
just
especially
crazy.
the processed carbohydrates. Yeah, and they do it to. R.J. Reynolds actually bought Kellogg, and they already figured out how to make cigarettes addictive, and so they put sugar into all this processed food. It's so that
Gross.
we'll eat more of it.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I was
And it's-
mainlining Cheerios
Yeah.
as a child.
It's good. Well, those are pretty low.
Well,
But the
those and Lucky Charms. And Captain Crunch, all that stuff.
Oh, Captain Crunch.
It
was
doesn't
so
taste
good.
the same now.
No,
If
it
you
doesn't.
eat it,
Yeah.
it's different because I think they add more crap to it.
So there's ties. What they found is there's correlations between depression, diabetes. They're calling Alzheimer's now diabetes 3. It's now known to be a level of diabetes caused by sugar. And I just lost my stepfather last week
I'm
to
sorry.
Alzheimer's. And he had pancreatitis, which is where your insulin comes from.
Yeah.
He had, and he was on depressants in the last 10, 20 years. Antidepressants, I mean. And so I can see a whole tie, the following of what all these doctors are saying, and the food in the old people's home is not good food either for them. So he got worse and worse as he was in there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, food, like, pay attention to what you're eating.
Yeah.
And
I know, it's
I
really
changed
important.
I cut
I'm working on it.
sugars and carbs on a moment's notice when I started
When you've
finding some
learned.
stuff out, and I lost some weight. That was good, but it's not about that. I got
The mental
my
clarity.
my blurry
Wow.
vision came back, my clarity came back. I
Really?
was having issues. My nervous system seems better. Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to dive into that a little bit more because
yeah.
I feel like I've done, like I said, a lot of things to help myself and work through things. But I've also been diagnosed as pre-diabetic because of all the sugar I was taking in and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I have gotten better. The healthiest eater I know is you because you have glucose issues.
Well, and I went through exactly that where I had to cut out gluten and
Oh, gluten. Sorry, not
yeah.
glucose.
But before I did that, I was like in my early 30s. I was exhausted all the time. I couldn't function. I couldn't focus. I was like getting angry for no reason, and I couldn't figure it out. I went to get allergy testing, and I was not, getting inflammatory responses to anything else. And so they did a DNA test. They found out that I had the celiac gene, but it's not active. So then over the next, few weeks, I cut out gluten, and it was the fastest
Amazing.
turnaround healing process I have ever experienced in my entire life. To your point, I
Yeah.
lost weight, which was not the goal, but the mental clarity came back.
Yep.
Like I was a completely different person, and
Wow.
it was so fast. And after that, and I was devastated that I had to give up carbs. So
Yeah.
No, it
So
is
I do
sad.
have one important question. You take away the carbs, you take away the sugar, you take away the fruit. What does that leave us with besides air?
Well,
Protein, but you can't just eat meat all day.
I-
Okay, she's a meat
I'm
eater.
actually right now trying to just do animal products, and I was vegan before. Also, my brother, when he took his life, was vegan.
interesting.
Yeah, and so all processed foods. It turns out the vegan diet, and I love animals, and that's why I did it
Yeah.
for so many years. But I'm trying meat right now.
Okay,
I don't love eating meat all the time because I've gone so long without it.
Right.
But my health, and it's also high fat, so high animal fat, so butter, tallow. All our brains need fat. And we have
avocados.
avocados, not an animal product, but so
I'm just thinking of high-fat stuff
but
that's good for you.
But so the keto diet is a high-fat diet, and there's different levels of protein depending on how you're doing that diet. So I'm not here to promote a diet at all because I've tried them all.
Right.
But I will say that the high-fat, our brains need it. And we've been taught low fat for years, right? That's what's been pressed on us.
Well, yeah, we're taught low fat and all these fat-free foods that are filled with more chemicals that'll
Yeah,
kill us in
yeah.
another way than anything else.
Right.
We're
Exactly.
actually getting close to the end, if you can believe it or not.
Yeah.
I want to give some people to take away. Nick, since you're here, I would like to focus in on this book. If anybody would like to get this book and check it out, I think it's a wonderful story. Loosely based or mostly based on the journey of your brother, who we are so sad to hear took his life, but the things that you have learned, and there's always something magical that turns out after a disaster or a tragedy, and you are the magic, and you are the one that you are continuing the journey in this situation, and you can help others. And I think that even if one person today is listening and thinks, I've been this way, and maybe I could take away fat, or maybe I could get one of those links. And I'm going to put the links under the link to the chat box today for all the people that you have told us about, so everybody else can have a chance
All right.
to do that. I can't thank you enough, and thank you, Jen, for
you.
bringing this beautiful person on. This is Kim Denning, and don't forget to look her up for musical inspiration or anything else.
I'm happy to coach people through any of this. If
I love
anybody,
that.
put something on the video, and I'll reach out to me. And I
Oh my gosh.
it's kind of a goal I have is
That's
to begin
special.
coaching with these lifestyle
And you're not looking
habits.
for anything in return, which makes you altruistic, and I
Well,
love
not forever.
that. No, but
for
what
right
I mean is
now,
for right
yeah,
now, when
yeah,
you're doing
yeah,
this, you're doing it
yeah.
out of the kindness of your
Yeah.
heart, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And couple of last minute things for anybody to say that's open to the floor.
No, I think your journey is absolutely incredible. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think all of the magic that's kind of come out through this has just been absolutely amazing, and just so touching and inspiring. And so, thank you for sharing your story,
thank you for letting me.
thank you for also wanting to reach out to our community and to coach people. I think that's being affected by it in the way that you have, makes you such an amazing resource for our community. So thank you.
And it helps us heal to help others.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Do you have any last words you want to tell everybody how to reach out to Speak Up, Reach Out, so maybe they could take a class
There's
or
a
reach
link
out?
there. Yeah, go to Speak Up, Reach Outs. And I heard recently a quote that said, "Pain to purpose," and that we can find our purpose best by looking back at pain in our lives, and that's where we learn the most. So I've tried to take that to heart.
I like that.
And I would say one of my greatest concerns right now is these kids in the high schools with all the threats that have been going on.
Oh my gosh.
And to watch out for these kids. I teach piano, and so I'm with some of them, and it's anxiety causing.
Absolutely.
And so I would love I wish I could do something for them all, because
I know. And the sad part is it goes to the parents, it trickles down, and your parents are going to be anxious.
Oh, the
they have
parents
children
are
in that
nervous.
school.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. So,
Well, we
anyways,
can't thank you
thank
enough.
you.
Listen,
Thank you.
this is a very important day, and
Yeah.
Kim Denning, we're really glad that you came here.
Thank you.
You're a remarkable, remarkable person, and thanks for being local here with us so you can maybe help anybody to reach out. I might be calling her. Kim, I had a cake and a mat. Seriously, I just think
Get
that
back on
it's
the horse
really
tomorrow.
important that we bring these topics up.
Yeah.
That's what the chat box is all about,
Yeah.
keeping yourselves as good as you can, mentally sane, emotionally
Healthy.
well, and
Adding tools
Exercise.
to your toolbox.
exercise, eat
Yes.
right, take care of yourselves,
Yeah.
and a little
Yeah.
samba. And you can also tell anybody where they can do that.
Hey, reach out. I'm on. My name is Kim Duncan on Facebook, so you can Kimberly Duncan. So you can reach out to me, message me on Facebook.
Well, that's confusing, but that's
Yeah.
okay. No, I'm just kidding.
That's another
All right.
story.
You know, we change our lives. All right, Kim Denning, Kim Duncan online, Jen Sido, I'm Liz Farron. We can't thank you guys enough for tuning into the chat box on another wonderful Friday afternoon, live on YouTube, coming to you directly from the TV8 studios. Thanks to Nick and Danielle for taking care of us here in the studio. We hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and keep sane, everybody. We'll be back again next Friday.